Hi, everybody. Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. You know how I do the top 10s every week that Alan does? Well, when I'm going through my books, sometimes I come across stuff that make me think, oh, that would make a cool video. And in this particular case, this makes a great video because I know the story pretty well, and I'm attempting to do this without notes for the first time. That may be a clue to what kind of story it is, and that could be why I know what I'm talking about. There was this group of villains who fought the Legion of Superheroes quite a few times from their debut in issue 352 of Adventure Comics, and that was the Fatal Five. The Fatal Five consisted of Tharok, the leader, who was a half man, half robot, a character by the name of Mano, who was had a disc on his hand that would destroy anything it touched, and he destroyed his home planet with it. Then there's the Emerald Empress, whose power was that she had this big floating eye that was able to do whatever her bidding was. The fourth was a guy by the name of the Punisher. Yes, that name, done a long time ago, who had a magical axe. Sorry, not the Punisher. Oh my God, the Persuader. His name was the Persuader, and he had a big axe. I'm just seeing it in front of me. I can't believe that. Whoops. Not the Punisher, the Persuader. See, sometimes I forget things. The Persuader. He had this huge axe that could cut everything in front of it, including energy. He could cut gravity with it, for example. It was a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool weapon. The Persuader made some appearances in Superman in recent years. In the present time, as opposed to now, I think it was a different person, but at least once it was the guy who came back through time. So, but this leaves the fifth member of the Fatal Five, the one that I haven't mentioned yet. It's a large, monster-looking like creature who was huge, had hands like this. Okay, he only had 3 fingers on each hand, probably had 3 toes. His face, his head, you could see his brain because his skull was clear. His eyes were here, and like at the bottom of the base of the glass, and of course his mouth. He could also project lightning out of his thoughts. And this character was named Validus. Now, Validus is going to be the subject of today's story because I just think it's really cool. Validus was created by Jim Shooter and Kurt Swan, but Jim Shooter in particular should get complete billing for the creation of Validus because he wrote the story. This is the book Adventure Comics 352 that they came out of first. Validus is pictured right here in the corner with Sunboy because each Legionnaire in this book is being sent to send one, and Validus is pictured right here. They were calling him the Fatal Five before they got together because that was a lawman's term. But like in there's Mano, there's Emerald Empress, the Persuader, and Tharok are all pictured there too. But as I said, we're going with Validus. Now, Validus, unlike the other 4, Validus wasn't truly evil. He was more like a childlike intelligence who, had these powers and was prone to outbursts, and that's usually when he did things. During this story, Princess Projectra actually managed to convince. He saved Princess Projectra during this storyline, and she managed to make him fight the other Fatal Five members at the end when they suddenly disappeared due to the energy of someone. Now, as I said, Validus made some appearances over the years. He killed the original Invisible Kid, Lyle Norg, in Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes 203, I believe. I've shown that book, so I'm in my 100. In my top 10 death videos, I showed that particular book, so I wasn't going to show it again here. But yeah, so he fought them on several times. During the Great Darkness saga, Validus was currently being kept on Takron Galtos, which was the prison planet of the United Planets. He had finally been captured and put in there and was being contained. Unfortunately, he managed to escape when Takron Galtos was destroyed during the Great Darkness saga by Darkseid. Now, this is where Paul Levitz and his absolute brilliant writing style comes into play. One of the things that we haven't seen up to this point, and this is 1982. So Validus has been around since 1966 or 67, depending on. This was a go-go checkbook, as you can see at the top. So 66 or 67, he's been around. Darkseid here, 1982. Still no origin, no nothing. Darkseid gets defeated in this, and that is a big major factor into what's coming up. There is a big hole in this story. And this is what I like. Paul Levitz wrote this story. Annual 3 from the Legion of Superheroes. 1984. In this book, Saturn Girl is giving birth. Lightning Lad is there. During the birth period, there is a huge power outage at the station. It gets dark. Now, Saturn Girl manages to give birth to a boy. And everything seems great in order until the last 2 pages of the book. During the darkness, Darkseid had kidnapped the twin son. And Saturn Girl mentions, I could have sworn there were 2 babies. But only one was born. Before the second one was born, he was stolen by Darkseid. Darkseid took the baby and sent him to the past and created Validus. Validus has huge mental powers, where his brain is showing, and lightning powers, because that reflects his parents. This was absolutely brilliant. When I read this for the first time, my jaw dropped. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. But the story doesn't end there. We have the origin now of Validus. But in Annual 2 of the Baxter series Legion of Superheroes, as you can see, Validus is here. Validus has escaped and has kidnapped their child, Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl's child. And they're panicking and whatever. And then they realize that the child and Validus are getting along. As if they know. As if Validus knows that's his brother. As if he knows that's his parents. At this point, they somehow make the realization that Darkseid, that they did have 2 babies, and that Darkseid had stolen one. And the gist of this book was how Saturn Girl goes to Darkseid himself and manages to convince him to change Validus back into their son. And we never see Validus again. At least until recently. He was actually in a recent Superman book, same thing, because there's things going on. And I'd like to point out that Darkseid was involved in that storyline as well. So, but as of this book, he becomes their son again. And what is interesting on that is that the son who used to be Validus ends up carrying a virus that ends up decimating a lot of the population on Wyneth, which is Lightning Lad's home planet. And they name the virus the Validus virus. Now, most of them get cured, but it looks bad for a long time. That's a later story, and I don't have those ones, but I do know that that's what happens afterwards. But this was cool. If you like this storyline, please like, comment, and subscribe below. Tell me if you've ever read any of these books, what you think of these storylines. Paul Levitz, I swear, he thinks on 3 levels when it comes to his comic books, and I love that. And this is one of the reasons why, even to this day, I love the Legion. And more, when you read older stories that you didn't realize things were going on, and after you've read the new stories again, you're like, oh, this is setting that up, and so forth and so forth. It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. My name is Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too. Bye, everybody.